Welcome to this question and answer session with Bruce Thornton, independent consultant and trainer. Bruce developed the risk model several years ago with David Paul of Gwynedd Council. Bruce has introduced the risk model to authorities across Wales and England over the last 10 years. In this conversation, we focus on linking change in the effective child protection model. Bruce, can you explain to us what you mean by capacity to change and how it's assessed?
Interestingly, there is a lot of focus in child protection on this thing called a parent's capacity to change. Yet, from what we see in procedures, there's actually very little focus on change itself as a concept. It is seldom referenced in processes or forms. That is, of course, what effective child protection is emphasising and trying to correct. I think traditionally the idea of capacity change is mainly linked to parental problems and whether these are permanent. For example, in areas such as substance misuse, the question posed whether the parent is going to recover from the problem they're having. And we talk of change as relating to any aspect of something which needs correction. Effective child protection tries to move from this generalisation. It focuses on some underpinning principles. Firstly, the change has to be related to significant harm. Secondly, a connection between parental deficiencies and the resulting harm to the child must be made explicitly. So, in effective child protection, capacity change has to be focused on the change related to significant harm. We ask ourselves, what else do we need to know about change? Theories about change and change management exist on several levels, from organisational to personal responses to bereavement. All of these ideas help us to consider change as a process and that what we do in response influences the outcome or trajectory. Some useful models include the change cycle. This creates a mental model of stages from pre-contemplation through contemplation to action and maintenance. This was well explained in the seminal book The Child's World by John Howarth and the late Toni Morrison. One of the accepted positions is that if someone is identified at a stage of pre-contemplation, they are not yet ready to change. So if we know they're at this stage, we should respond accordingly and work to help them explore the reasons why they should change and what holds them back. As part of the risk model, we took some of the key indicators of being at this pre-contemplation stage and turned it into an easy-to-use tool. Its purpose was only for practitioners to know whether someone was at the pre-contemplation stage. Some of the 7 steps of contemplation are that they accept there is a problem and believe that things must change. In assessment, we can use the 7 steps of contemplation. It helps practitioners to clarify whether all 7 stages are satisfied and that they can be confident the person is ready to start to change. Another useful mental model as we explore parental capacity change is what we call a continuum of motivation. The idea is that there are a range of drivers, on the one hand from doing something because you're forced or told to do it, and on the other hand doing so because you are driving that desire, regardless of anyone else. The two extremes are internal and external motivation. External, of course, is when you feel pressured or forced to do something. We can all appreciate that many, probably most families, are externally motivated to change in child protection. There is a veiled threat, even if it is not spoken, about the consequences of non-compliance. It is accepted that if someone is externally motivated, their ability to sustain change will probably be short-lived and more likely to fail or falter. So we consciously work on developing these internal states of motivation. In the risk model, there is a checklist of statements that range from internal to external motivation. If you compare a statement of internal motivation, such as, I want to change, or I have resources to help solve this, compared with, you are my problem, or I accept that if I don't change, you'll take my children away. In assessment, we can use the continuum motivation checklist. It helps practitioners to clarify whether a person's motivation is internal and therefore that there is a prospect of sustained change.
Bruce, you've presented the cycle of change and 2 tools you've advocated. Is that enough?
I think using mental models help provide a more analytical approach to assessing capacity. But there are other things to think about. One question may be to ask, so how long do you wait? It's like waiting at a bus stop. If you wait long enough, a bus will probably arrive. However, you may be too late for your appointment. In the spirit of that, a few years ago, there was talk about the concept called within a child's time frame. What it meant essentially was that a child can only wait so long to experience the value of living at home as part of their birth family with their needs met. If it takes too long, the cumulative damage and missed opportunities will irreversibly damage the child's prospect to adjust from maltreatment, recover and develop into childhood. That's why there is a lot of focus on rapid progress of cases for young babies and children. If a situation is not going to be good enough in an appropriate time, it is sometimes better for a child to have long-term care arrangements made for them. So, when you think about change and capacity change, remember that this also has to fit into some time scale. Another issue which concerns practitioners is what is labelled as disguised compliance. As a label, it's so often misused. Disguised compliance is an intentional act on behalf of the parents to deceive practitioners and to give an impression of complying with these changes that are defined for them. These can be conscious or unconscious. Sometimes learned behaviour for an adult to manage their worlds and achieve their own needs and outcomes. So, disguised compliance is where a practitioner is led to the belief the parent is working with them, whereas, in reality, nothing will change. I won't repeat information that is more comprehensively covered in the practice guidance. However, it is very difficult for someone to display disguised compliance if you're using structured approaches such as steps to change. You'll very quickly see that no progress is being made. And of course, you should ensure the evidence that you collect about progress is understood from the accounts of the child's experience of daily life. Step to change is of course linked to capacity to change. Steps take an area of change and works collaboratively with the parents to break this down into smaller steps. This is a negotiation in collaboration with parents. It allows parents to set goals and to see where they have progressed from. This clarifies expectations and celebrates success. I think that effective child protection has capacity to change at its heart. It acknowledges change and supports a family or parent's journey towards care that is good enough.
Thanks, Bruce.